because we longboarded so much throughout that neighborhood and around it, like so many different times.
Yeah.
But what do you remember what street it was on?
I mean, it was close to your house because I just remember going down the hill and making a turn and just loose gravel kicking out the board from under me and me like just trying to brace myself. And it wasn't like a bad injury. It was just road rash, you know? And I remember just walking to your house to get bandaged up because I mean, I'm pretty sure that's where me and Christian were either there or hanging out and just kind of riding. So
nice.
Back when I was having flashbacks when I was driving through the other day.
That's hilarious. I haven't been back there in so long, dude. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's probably just much deeper, just developing. It's major.
So my New Year's resolution, you'll see, I have a nice glass of wine with me. My New Year's resolution is less beer, more wine. So I've been on a wine kick. I've only dabbled in the reds so far. I still have a long way to go. Okay. I got whites to try. I got other things to try. But yeah, it's, you know, I'm trying to class it up a little bit in 2024. I think it's time.
Well, save your wine bottles because I'm making. I don't know if you know this, but I make wind chimes out of wine bottles. And I have like a plethora
I did not know that.
Yeah. So like I don't drink wine, but I have a local winery and all the local wine drinkers who are just saving their bottles. And yeah, dude, I'll send you some pictures of them because they're pretty psychedelic and sick as fuck, actually. I'm really proud of them. So,
Hell yeah. I'll say some. I got like a bottle right now that's it's like a Grateful Dead special edition of this wine. So there's dancing bears and shit all over it, which is nice.
Well, that's save that anyway.
For sure. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Totally Biased Music. It's Blake and Anthony. That's the only two hosts the show has ever had. If you've ever listened to any episodes with other hosts, you know, I don't know, this must have been a fever dream of some sort.
Ghost hosts.
Ghost hosts. But we are back, and this episode we're going to talk 2023, a year in review. I feel like there was a lot that happened musically, a lot of shows that we've gone to, a lot of things that we want to talk about in the music world in 2023. So yeah, I think we'll list off maybe some of our top albums, some of our top live shows. We got some other stuff we want to talk about. So with that being said, how do you want to intro this a certain way, Anthony? How did you feel about 2023 musically for you?
It's a solid year. You know, it's hard. If you haven't noticed, it's hard for me to pull negativity out of things, especially stuff that you like pay to go to, right? Though I did walk out of a Breaking Benjamin show the other night in Birmingham.
Oh, okay.
Short story. Singer lost his voice, so it was basically a sing along show from the crowd. And 3 songs in, I hit the door.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it was hard. It was hard to do, but I said I can't. I would just be a piss face the whole show. So either way, 2023 though, back to the past, was a solid year. I don't have any complaints really, but it was a really good year for traveling. You know, even though I have a house full of dogs, I got to go see a bunch of shows and so I enjoyed it. So I'm gonna enjoy kind of diving backwards in time. What about you?
Nice. Yeah, I thought it was good. It was eventful. Saw a lot of shows, a lot of good memorable shows. There's some great albums. It's funny when you start thinking about like albums over the past year. You think of albums that released back in like February or March or whatever, and you're like, oh shit, that was this year. I forgot about that. Right. And so it was nice to just look back and see everything that had released, because there was a good amount of music that came out in 2023 and a lot of good music that came out. And so it was nice to kind of go down that journey. And obviously, like, my Spotify Wrapped is always an adventure to look through, and spoiler alerts or not spoiler alerts, if you know me at all, Eminem was my top artist for the 6th year in a row. So that much never really changes, but it is nice to get a little recap and see like what I was doing, what I was listening to, what albums I had on repeat, things like that. So I thought that was fun. I always appreciate
has Spotify been around for 6 years?
So yeah, I had it. It's funny that you bring that up, because I remember getting it, like, it started to be a thing at the end of high school. So that would be 2014 for me, is when that started. And then it really picked up in college and became more frequent. And then Wrapped, I think, started coming out around 2018, or it might have been before that. It might have been 2016, actually.
Shit.
Yeah, so it's been going on for a while, but yeah, I think Wrapped is fucking great. It's such a cool feature that they added to it, and it's nice
Hmm.
to get that recap at the end of the year. You know?
Yeah, like I'm a geek for statistics, and like to be able to not think about it consciously, but yeah, look back, it is pretty interesting. But there has to be asterisks, which I'll
Yeah,
talk to about is like the different listening platforms, that do have certain music and don't have certain music. So I had to dig around to see what albums were even released this year versus what I listened to Spotify versus what I purchased through Bandcamp or
yeah,
other outlets too. So
yeah, for sure.
that's interesting.
All right, well, let's get into it. Let's start with let's work our way backwards from our top albums this year. If you want to start with your
Yeah.
number five.
Okay. So number five, this I believe it's a solo producer. Got on my radar towards the very end of the year. And he is one that I cannot wait until more people get exposure to him. But goes by the name of Schwamp. So SHWAMP. There's I guess you could call it an EP slash album that came out called Artifact, and this guy is going to be so fucking like I'm not going to say huge, but in the psychedelic bass community, once he gets noticed, this guy's going to hopefully be performing here. I want to say he's from France, but I can't say enough good things of just about the music in general. But the album's
Nice,
called Artifact, and artist is Schwab.
nice,
So that's
hell yeah.
number five.
How'd you find him?
Bandcamp. I believe so. Bandcamp has a really cool feature where it's like you can follow music labels on Bandcamp and get email notifications as um, albums come out or EPs come out or even singles come out. And he was just tied into one. This Artifact was on. I don't want to missay the label because I'm not exactly sure, but that the Artifact came out. So then I listened to the first song and I was like, oh my god, this person knows what they're doing, and I can't wait to listen to more. So then I went backwards and found some albums that he had released in like 2020 and 2021, and Circus is one that comes to mind, I believe, and was like, I can't get enough of this. Literally turned it on, started painting to it, and was just enthralled by like the journey of it. So like it like I would be very interested to see what a live performance would be like
Yeah,
because the albums themselves flow together so smoothly that I mean it hits right where I want it to.
yeah,
So hopefully we can get him into the U.S. either this year, next year, who knows? But I can't imagine him not being on Tipper's radar to be
nice.
involved in an event like that.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Number five for me was Zach Bryan's self-titled album, Zach Bryan. So he's a country artist, and I don't know like enough about the country verse, the country sphere to know if
Hmm.
Zach Bryan has been around for a while or has been popular for a while. But this album came out this year, and like it's phenomenal in terms of I get on a country phase in the summer and I just listen to a shit ton of
Hmm.
country music. I think it was my second most played genre this year, which is hilarious. It was like 70% hip hop, 20% country, and then 10% everything else.
Yeah.
But it was it's a really good album. He's got a really great voice, and he's a unique songwriter, and a lot of it is very much um slower and kind of more introspective, and it's kind of sad boy music in a way, but there are also some really like nice upbeat summer jams on there, and it's just nice to kind of kick back and listen to some country music. And it's nice to like I feel like every country artist or music that I listen to is like 10 years old because I don't follow that music on a regular basis, so it's nice to get on board with something as soon as it comes out.
Right.
So just a little spoiler alert that none of my other top albums are anything like that, so don't expect that from me. But that's kind of what I have for number five. Do you ever dabble in the country music, Anthony, or is that not really up your alley?
Well, it was. There's a time and a place for everything, and that time for me was like probably like fourth grade, fifth grade to seventh grade ish,
Yeah,
But
yeah,
like I can still listen to artists like Montgomery Gentry and like Lone Star, and I mean Toby Keith, Hank Williams Jr. That time period for me is still like it holds a place in my heart. And like we used to play poker and listen to that nonstop outlaw country music. Um,
yeah,
the new country has not been up my alley necessarily, or there maybe is just too many other things to listen to kind of
Yeah,
dive
that's
into that
fair.
world. But like, Jelly Roll, would you consider Jelly Roll country?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
So I mean, like, I could get down with him, but like, I don't know any of his songs
Yeah.
per se, right? But you ever catch other people listening to country near, like, in your vicinity in Colorado? Because it's a fusion there.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there are definitely like, there some of my friends that are out here that lived in Birmingham,
There you
that
go.
are out here now, still kind of dabble, but most of them, like my friend Kevin, like every time we go golfing, I'll put on country music and he just like, you could tell he's just not about it. And it's like his excuse is like, dude, growing up in Birmingham, like I heard it so much and it was non fucking stop. And now
Yeah.
like I don't want anything to do with it, which I totally understand. So sometimes I get some people that ride with it, but a lot of the people I hang out with now are big hip hop listeners, so I don't really let the country music ride around them much.
No, I get it. I get it.
So,
Yeah.
all right. So what do you got for number 4?
All right. Number 4 is by a band called. It's a 2-person band called L1011. Uh, I've been. I can't wait in the future to bring one of their albums to this podcast, but this album in particular, called Valley of Fire, came out right after the New Year. And in fact, there's a track. I think maybe the first track is called New Year's Day, and they just have their own sound. I don't know if I've ever sent you a track from them to listen to while snowboarding, but maybe you will discover it on your own. Um, they're just very unique and eclectic. I mean, one's a drummer, and one's he plays like a double guitar, like bass and guitar, like 2 necks on it, and they're really talented guys. But this album
Nice.
was the first album of theirs I got to hear that came out when I knew who they were, if that made sense. Like, they have
Yeah.
some albums from like early 2000s that are epic as fuck, but obviously didn't know about them till, a few years ago. But yeah, this one was really nice. So,
Nice.
yeah,
What are they kind of? Is it like white stripey vibes, or is it different type of music?
it's not quite down that. There's no vocals to their music. So
Oh, interesting.
purely instrumental. But it's really hard to describe, I mean, it's kind of like, maybe if Explosions in the Sky met the White Stripes, but no Jack White, if that makes
That's
sense,
fair. Yeah, that's fair.
So it's like, it's its own flavor, but you just kind of have to, once you get to listening to them, you start to realize, oh, this is their kind of lane of music. So
Yeah.
I've not seen them live, but that's a band that I really do want to see live also.
Nice. Very
Yeah.
cool. Okay, so my number 4, I think you're gonna have some thoughts on this. By the way, I have some repeat artists in my shows and my albums, but my number 4 is
Oh,
Don't
gotcha.
Get Too Close by Skrillex. So Skrillex released 2 albums this year. He released them back to back. I think it was like a day apart. It might not have even been a full day. So he released Quest for Fire and then Don't Get Too Close. And Don't Get Too Close is a much more, I don't know how to explain it. It's, in terms of Skrillex music, I feel like it's much more experimental. Like, it's more down tempo. It's kind of like, it's almost poppy in a way. I don't know. It's very different, and his sound in general is very different. But it is a phenomenal album, and I think it's like you have to be in the mood for it. And like electronic fans, I think definitely leaned more towards Quest for Fire, but Don't Get Too Close has a lot of great songs on it that I have rinsed all throughout the year. I think Skrillex was my number 4 most played artist of the year because I just listened to those 2 albums back to back, and like I loved everything about him. And I like that Skrillex took a lot of time off. And back when we were in high school, early college, like Skrillex was, I guess, was considered a dubstep artist, I guess would be the best way to put it, and made really kind of excision-y, like hype, violent, heavy drop type music. And he's gone a different lane with the albums that he put out this year. And Don't Get Too Close is a heavy departure from that. So I really enjoyed it. I don't know if you listened to him or not when they dropped. Did you?
Well, did y'all do one of these albums for the podcast?
So we did them both. We did Quest
did
for
do
Fire
both,
and Don't
okay.
Get Too Close. Yeah, back to back.
Gotcha. So then I would have listened to them at that point to try to just listen along with the podcast. But Skrillex has been, at first it was kind of like I don't know how to say this. It was trendy to shit on Skrillex back when.
Yeah.
It just felt that way because I mean, there was Bass Nectar and Skrillex like kind of growing at the same time, and it was like choose one. And in reality, it wasn't didn't need to be that way. But I never really gave him the time of day until I heard he produced some songs with Incubus on their album Eight. Um, that are so fucking good. There's one song called "Loneliest" on that Incubus album that, if you haven't heard that, you should, because the bass is just so like he cleaned that album for them pretty much. So
Yeah.
like that kind of changed my perspective on him as, or just him in the music scene, and also hearing about these Red Rock shows that he did, or I guess it was one night. Like, what do you know
Yeah.
about that show?
So it was one night, and he played for like 5 hours.
Yeah, right.
He played from 7 to midnight. So I like me and I was up in Breck with some people at the time, and we all jumped in the waiting room hoping to get tickets to it, and obviously it sold out immediately. And the resale ticket was like $300, and I didn't
Yeah,
want to spend the money, but like
right,
he went through like a bunch of oldies. He played. I mean, it was 5 hours, so he just mixed a shit
right.
ton and did a bunch of different styles of music and played the new albums and played old albums. And I heard it was a fucking hell of a show. So I'm super jealous that people got to go and I missed it. But you know, such is life.
Right. But like to hear, like at first you hear, or at least from my point of view, I hear somebody plays for 5 hours, a DJ or producer plays for 5 hours at Red Rocks. And at first I'm thinking, is that exhausting? Because I know Skrillex type of music, right? And I'm like, if it's nonstop that's got to be exhausting. But to kind of look back, and I think there were maybe an interview or something that he did where he was talking about how long he prepared that set, or how long it took him to prepare that set to curate that type of experience for people. And that again just kind of changes my perspective of him just in the music scene.
Yeah.
And then also that that time he worked with the Doors. I
Yep.
believe that was another really interesting part. So like getting respect from all these musicians that I respect and the venues that I respect, it just kind of illuminates him in another light, I think.
Yeah. No, I definitely feel that. All right, what do you got
Yeah.
for number 3?
Number 3 is a pretty well known producer, Random Rab. He came out with an album called On Magnificence, and there's so much to say on him, but it's hard to put words to it, I would say. This album came on my radar through Android Jones, who did the album cover, and
Nice.
his artwork is incredible. And then you pair that with Random Rab's kind of soulful bass, psychedelic bass, ceremonial bass, and it just fits too well. So that album is really nice to put on and just let it go, and your mind kind of wanders throughout while listening to it. But it's too clean to not. It's too clean to press skip. You know,
Yeah.
when those albums kind of hit, you just kind of let them go and you get into a flow state regardless of what you're doing. So that's a really good album to put on, I think, when you have something to do that you can listen to secondary. But if you ever want to give it a full listen, it's fully worthwhile too. So it's hard to disappoint.
Nice.
You
Yeah,
ever
I gotta
listen to
give it a
him?
shot. No, I haven't. I need to give it a shot for sure.
Yeah.
I need some music like that, especially when I'm like around the house. Like Tuesday, like today, my Tuesdays are my Sunday because I work Wednesday through Saturday. So Tuesdays
Hell
I do
yeah.
shit like I do my laundry, I meal prep, I do all the shit around the house. Like I need an album to just throw on and kind of listen to
Yeah.
as I get shit done. You know.
Yeah. It fits the vogue.
So
Number 3.
number three for me is not going to be an album that I think you have listened to, Anthony. It's A Gift and a Curse by Gunna, rapper Gunna. So hip hop is in a very interesting state right now with new artists. You know, I think a lot of people have opinions on kind of where they see hip hop now and where they see it going in the future. Gunna, I really enjoy. What happened was there was like a thing that happened where people were on Twitter, like kind of dick riding Gunna. And I don't know why I was seeing it so much. I guess I'm just on hip hop Twitter. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to give him a shot. And I downloaded like 4 of his albums to listen to. I think I was going to DC to see Carly. And I just listened to all of them front to back on the way to DC. And A Gift and a Curse was the album that he released in 2023. And I just love it. Like Gunna has a really unique voice. His production and his albums is super unique to me. And I just really like what he does kind of on his own. He does. I mean, he has a a duo album with Lil Baby, which is nice. But when he's by himself and the production he uses is just, it's super nice to me. And obviously, you know, I'm a huge hip hop head, and so anything releasing in 2023, I'm going to listen to. And so, yeah, I just really enjoyed it. I don't know if it's your cup of tea, as I've heard some of your ratings on some of the hip hop albums we have done, but maybe I can find some gems from that album to send to you to see how you feel about them. You know?
Well, you're right on as far as, like, I definitely have not listened to this before, and I almost asked you, you know, are there any dollar signs in the text of this album? And I just looked it up, and there's one. There's this track called Cash Shit, and there's $2 in cash and shit. And so
not a fan.
So, send me that song. I'll listen to. Well, I'll listen to. Yeah, no, I would. When text starts getting weird, you know, they capitalize the other letters and lowercase the initial.
Yeah,
I start getting thrown off, but yeah, I would give anything a shot. I would give anything a shot, but if it gets a repeat, now it's worth talking about. If not, then I just kind of let it die.
No, that's fair. That's fair. All right, what do you got for number 2?
All right. Oh shit. All right, number 2. I fucking love this producer. He put out an album a long time ago that was so fucking good, and finally came out with the second album, I believe. And the artist is called Avoid. Again, another space psychedelic bass artist, but incredible musician too. I believe he plays guitar. He plays some sort of strings sometimes in his shows. This album is called The Grass Grows Greenest Where the Fire Once Burned. So a long title for an album, but a journey in itself. I was, again, so stoked to see that he produced another album, and to hear it didn't disappoint. So Avoid is a guy to definitely dig into. And I'd like to know, have you ever heard Avoid? Not even the guy. Yeah. So let me find out real quick what this older album is called, because it is so fucking good. It's called Life. The album Life came out fucking many years ago. Let's see. So 2017 was when that album came out. And this one, The Grass Grows Greenest Where the Fire Once Burned, this year. And it didn't stick out in my mind when I think about albums that came out this year, because I'm constantly jumping back and forth between past and present when it comes to listening habits, right? But digging back through Bandcamp, I was able to see, you know, what I purchased throughout the year, and saw, oh yeah, this one. And luckily it was 2023, so I was like, that shit's going to the top, towards the top of that list. So Avoid is somebody to listen to.
I gotta say, I fucking love the album name. That album name is sick, dude. So that's definitely worth giving it a shot.
It's like, it has Emancipator vibes, right? Like the title does. You know, Emancipator has like it will be soon enough, or some sort of like poetic title.
Yeah.
And this one hits right there, and the vibe, the music matches that in a nice way.
Very nice. Okay, so number 2 for me, I already know your thoughts on this. So you can still share them with the class. Number 2 for me, Utopia by Travis Scott. I fucking love me some Travis Scott, baby, and I love Utopia. You know, he took a long hiatus for various reasons we're not going to get into, but I am a big Travis Scott fan. Astroworld is one of my favorite hip-hop albums of all time, which I have stated before. He has a very... and Utopia is a kind of a departure from Astroworld, but Astroworld has a very psychedelic hip-hop feel. Like, it's almost like Travis with that album kind of gave me like a Pink Floyd of rap music type of feel. Like, it's all very psychedelic, very kind of like a Journey album, and there's some weird production, weird beats, and I just love his voice. I love how he uses auto-tune. I love the way that he brings in other rappers and producers. But Utopia, I think, like, I just really miss listening to new Travis Scott music, and I think he delivered for Travis Scott fans in a really nice way, and he didn't stick to the same formula that he'd been known for. You know, it was kind of a departure from what he was used to, and so I rinsed it a shit ton. I ran it into the ground. I gave it a break. I'm ready to come back to it. Like it's just been it's really nice. There's a lot of gems on there for me. And I think you told me that you rated it a 5 out of 10 or maybe a 6 out of 10 and said like you could like just keep the beats, which
Yeah.
is
I mean
something to that
that's
degree.
like a trend, yeah, with a lot of I mean hip hop nowadays or I don't want to I sound like an old ass person when I say that. Hip hop nowadays, right? But like new hip hop to me, like I get the production behind it, right? It's just sometimes vocals can get so distracting or like hooks can get so distracting to me that it takes away from the production that's there. And maybe that I don't know. I would like to know what resonates with people mostly because I can definitely remember, growing up, I mean where it was Wayne and Wiz and Kid Cudi, like vocals meant so much to me then. And even now, I can listen back to those mixtapes and I'm listening to it through a whole nother ear where I'm hearing production and I'm hearing, you know, nuances in the music on top of the vocals, right? So
Yeah.
it's like it makes it even better. But now it's hard for me to get behind some music that is just distracting to me.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, no judgment to anyone else, or, and to you for liking that shit. I get it, but for me, it's just hard.
It's
It's
not
hard
your
to
thing.
get. No, yeah, it's hard. It's hard for
Yeah.
me like I said, to play it again when I know there's so much other goodness out there. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll try something else. So
Yeah. Well, it's funny, like this is a much larger conversation, but a friend of mine and I were riding around listening to hip hop music the other day, and we were just talking about how now when you go back and listen to those old mixtapes, old albums, things of that nature, the production was so much lighter and it was so much more simplistic. It was just like a
right,
drum track with like a very minimal over it. So I felt like they had to, like rappers then had to work harder with their lyricism and their flow and what they were talking about. And like you go listen to a prime example of it is the Slim Shady LP. Like the Slim Shady LP is like the most bare bone beats you could listen to. And it's still like one of the best hip hop albums of all time just because of the way that Eminem kind of worked that to his favor. And now I feel like hip hop music has changed so much that production has become a lot more of a focus because they can do so much more. Not to say that there aren't phenomenal beats
right,
from the 90s and early 2000s, but now it's gotten so much more extravagant and kind of over the top at points that rappers tend to lean on that stuff. And not that it's a bad thing, but there's a lot of things I look for in hip hop music, and like I said, it's a bigger conversation to have. But yeah, I enjoyed it, but I get where you're coming from for sure, 100%.
right, right.
All right, number one, the
Number
best
one.
album in 2023. What do you got?
All right, so this album's by a band that I luckily get to see pretty frequently. So I'm super stoked that I get to experience these songs live because this band, the way it happens every time they put out an album or an EP. The first listen, I'm very much indifferent on it. But second listen, third listen, fourth listen, random listen, like if a song from the album comes into rotation randomly, it resonates. And then, of course, live, it takes its journey on its own. So the band is Papadozio, and the album's
Nice.
called To Live a Making. And like I said, this is one of the I mean, I feel confident saying it's one of the first albums that they've had with interludes within the album. Like they've had they float between instrumental tracks and tracks with vocals, and they're amazing musicians. All of them are, but this one is very intentional with segue tracks. They have like a minute and a half long tracks. They have like 3 or 4 minute and a half long tracks that are just instrumentals that build right into the next track. That I'm so glad they were able to put that out there confidently because live, I mean, these guys they get hate from people for whatever reason, but like from a jamming standpoint, from an improv standpoint, from a telepathic communication standpoint, live, dude, these guys are incredible, I think. And
Yeah.
but they don't I mean they play theaters, but they're not selling out bigger places, like Goose did. Like Goose took on a
Right.
life of their own, the past couple of years, but like Papadozio still stays in the niche kind of fan base, but like from a music standpoint, like these guys are so incredible. So that had to take the top spot for me.
Nice, very fair. I have to give it a listen. You know, I've seen Papadozio a
Hmm.
few times, and I know about them and of them, but I haven't really dabbled in listening to their music, just like at home or in the car on a regular basis. So I need to give it a shot. I do like Papadozio. I've always enjoyed their shows, but I just
Hmm.
haven't taken the step to dive in and listen to them on that level. You know?
Yeah, and like from a like genre standpoint, it was always hard for me to kind of nail down, how I would try to describe them until I really somebody just told me, about the term progressive rock. And like progressive rock to me didn't mean anything because I never really used that term that much. But then I start thinking back into bands that I really love. Pink Floyd is above all, right? Dredge is another one. Uh, I've started to dive into this actually labeled progressive rock genre and discovered so much. Radiohead is another one. Um, God is an Astronaut is a band that I discovered last year that is fucking taking over my rotation. So
Nice,
like to think about it that way, and then to see a show with that mindset of like, all right, this music, we know what the music is, what the tracks are, but let's see where they go, and then watch them come back home has been such a cool way to kind of look at a live show. So um,
nice.
yeah, it's been. I can't wait to see more of these tracks off this album in a live setting too.
Hell yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah.
All
All
right,
right, here we go.
number one for me shouldn't be a surprise. Quest for Fire by Skrillex. I mean,
Okay.
there's no skips on it for me. Every time I re-listen to it, I find another track that I love very much. And I already kind of raved about Skrillex for a little bit, so I won't go on too long. But like you said, he's at a point where he has the respect of a lot of artists, a lot of musicians. He puts a lot of work into his shows, his production, things of that nature. And Quest for Fire is a phenomenal album. It's everything I want in an electronic album. There's mixes of a bunch of different types of music on there. There's some really heavy tracks. There's some house songs on there. There's some kind of journey tracks on there. It's just I really loved Quest for Fire, and it was just really nice. Kind of like for Travis Scott, it was just nice to have Skrillex back and to be listening to a new Skrillex album. And like when it came out, we were all really excited about it and really happy for it. And just I remember texting Christian and Trey and all of us listening to it and friends here, and it was just exciting. And so it's been in my rotation. It will continue to be in my rotation. And I don't know if you saw, they did a him, Fred again, and Fortet did like a pop-up show in Times Square where
Oh
they
wow.
just set up on like a bus in the middle of Times Square and just played. They just ran through a bunch of tracks, and there's a moment where Fred again is like, he comes over the mic and he's like, "Yo, Sonny's album came out 12 hours ago," and like they're playing tracks off of it, and people are fucking losing it. And so
So
they
cool.
they did a run at they played a set together at Coachella. They've done a bunch of stuff, so it's been really cool to watch kind of this Skrillex arc in 2023 and see that people are starting to really take him seriously as an electronic artist, which I think is long
Right.
overdue. So
Yeah.
that's definitely the number one spot for me. So
Yeah. The diversity too in that album, that was something that really stuck out to me because like there's different ways to put out an album. Like you can put out an album that is a concept album, that everything kind of ties into a theme or kind of flows together. Or you can do something like this and like showcase your skills in all the different genres, from dubstep to drumstep to jungle to hip hop to who knows what else, right? But
yeah,
that was something that really I was like, man, I can appreciate this for what it is, which is like look at what I've been doing and look at how I can do it. So
yeah,
yeah, I get it. I get it.
for sure. All right, so let's get into top shows. I saw a shit ton of
Shows.
shows in 2023.
Hell yeah.
So what
Well,
what
let's
do you
hear it.
got? Let's
No,
do you want me to start it off?
yeah,
All
start
right.
at 5.
So number 5 for me, it was a Bonnaroo set. Shocker. It was Zed's Dead's Where in the Woods set. So they played a normal set
Oh.
on the other stage, and they played a Where in the Woods set, which for those that haven't been to Bonnaroo, recently they have an area there called Where in the Woods that is basically in the campground, so you can go in with fucking anything. You can set up
Yeah.
hammocks, you can set up fucking tents, you can bring in food, alcohol, whatever it is. Go in there. They have sets all through the night. It's like nonstop. And so they played Thursday night late. I think it was like 2:30 to 5 or something at Where in the Woods. And at that point, people had started to kind of retire. They were calling it quits for the night. And so me and a few friends, my friend Crystal is a huge Zed's Dead fan, and she went with us. us, and yeah, we just went and they fucking threw it down. They played a couple of Skrillex tracks actually from that album, which was dope. And like the crowd was small and intimate. You know, it has a very like Bonnaroo Electric Forest vibe. It's like in the trees, there's lasers, lights, all this crazy shit. It's dark, like it gets real weird in there. And so it was just nice, like, because it's always fun being at Bonnaroo with a large group, but when things kind of dwindle down to the last like remaining soldiers, where it's like you're there with 10 of you, but then 4 of you make it to a show or whatever it is, and you're all kind of like, in the next morning you wake up and you're like, you all just have that shared experience of being the only ones that stayed up for it. And so they threw it down, man. I'm not like a huge Zed's guy, but like I enjoyed their actual set. But they're wearing the wood set just got super weird, and it was a lot of fun. So that's kind of those sets that I live for, you know, where they're just throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean it's a one of one, right? I mean, like you're not going to really. Did they advertise that set, or was it like
Yeah, they did.
Okay.
They did. It wasn't impromptu.
And like the setting. Last time I went to Bonnaroo may have been like 2 or. No, it was before the pandemic, I believe. So it may have been like 4 years ago, 5 years ago. But they had I think they either called it the Canopy or the Oasis. Does that sound familiar?
So like the Oasis, I think, was Okeechobee. So it may have been the Canopy.
Okay,
or maybe it
was a wooded area beyond the campgrounds, but not in the Bonnaroo setting that you could go to, and they had hammocks set up and trees. It was just kind of like a really chill area. But I'm really excited to hear that they're utilizing that environment also, you know, to put shows on. So like, hell yeah.
Because it was a thing for a little bit, like you said, around the 2018, 2019 mark, where they kind of let people set up shop there. Like they had vendors and they had people with hammocks and all that stuff. It was kind of a place to go get shade during the day because there's so many trees or whatever. But yeah, they have a full stage in there now. And so it's always like electronic artists up there kind of just doing whatever. And actually, fun fact, Portugal the Man did a listening party for their new album at Bonnaroo before their set, and they did it at Where in the Woods. So they just set up on the stage, just played the album, and we went, and there was not a lot of people there, but we all just we laid out some tarps, kicked back, and just listened to the album, and they were up there just kind of talking about it as it was going on, and it was really cool. So I like you said, I'm excited that they're utilizing that environment now.
Fuck yeah.
All right, what do you got?
All right, number 5 is Dopapod. So I saw Dopapod at Saturn. I don't remember what time of the year it was, but this was my first Dopapod show. And like they're in that same vein as Papadozio, as like progressive electronic fusion kind of band. But I had really made a conscious decision to not listen to their music until I got to see them live. I did the same thing with Papadozio, so it was like I go into the show with a complete blank slate. I have a general idea of what their music is and how they like to play, but to experience it like that was so fucking sick. And there were a couple songs they played in the set that really stuck out to me. One was a track called Mucho, and another one was a track called I think it's called Present Ghost. And I remember asking somebody next to me, like, yo, what is this song? What is that song? So I could go back and dig into it. But such a fun experience. It was a local show, so I got to be there with a bunch of friends that live in Birmingham still. And Saturn was the ideal venue for them. Open floor, good sound,
nice,
cheap ticket. So it was a sick show.
Nice. Very sick.
Yep.
Number 4 for me was Fish at Dick's Sporting Goods Arena. So I went to Dick's so they do 4 nights here in Colorado to close out their tour every year. I went to the Saturday show, and I went by myself actually. So it was interesting. You know, I've been to shows by myself before. I don't do it often, but I went early and I hung out on Shakedown Street and, you know, just drank, smoked a cigar outside, walked around, checked out vendors or whatever. I went into the show, and at the beginning I was around some people that like were not my vibe at all. They were people that I feel like did not belong at a Fish show, like didn't really know what it was, and they were kind of talking and being annoying. So at one point I left and went to I basically just walked kind of further over because I was on the side of the stage. And so I walked kind of more central in the stands and found just a bunch of like hardcore Fish heads that were all in the fucking aisle, standing up in the stands by the rail or whatever. And they were super into it. So it kind of like immersed me in the Fish experience, which is nice. And, you know, I haven't seen Fish a lot, and I love Fish. I love their live shows. And so it was nice to just kind of embrace it. I will say, Um, I left before the encore because I tried to beat the Uber traffic, and I had a number of beers before I left, and basically got lost walking around the campus that is Dick's Sporting Goods Arena,
Right.
and couldn't figure out where the fuck to get my goddamn Uber. And so I ended up, by the time I found the Ubers, like Fish was ending anyway, so it was like I should have just stayed for the fucking encore and followed all of the people out. So hindsight is
Right.
2020. But apart from that, man, it was a lot of fun. Fish throws down, and I saw him in Vegas, I think 2 years ago, and it was my first Fish experience, and it was a blast. And I need to, after the New Year's run, Trey and I watched, obviously not together, he was at home and I was here, but we watched the 29th, I think it was. We watched the live stream together, and like I need to make it a goal to see Fish more, like, because I love them. I love the live show, and watching the live stream really made me realize that. And so I need to put in more of an effort, I think, to try to get to at least, like, if they're going to come to Colorado, like, I should be doing all 4 nights. I live here. I don't have an excuse not to. I can get the time off work. And so I'm going to try to make that happen this year, just see them more, because, they're getting old. I know they have probably a number of years left in them, but I don't want to be, when they finally decide to hang it up, be the guy that's like, oh, I saw 2 or 3 Fish shows when I could have seen however many. So, but it
Yeah.
was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean, I might be that guy, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like, I've seen the first time I actually saw Fish was with your sister and Trey in Tuscaloosa. And that was a super fun experience. I mean, it was my first exposure to that environment that they create. And, I mean, I'm still indifferent to Fish World, I mean, I really appreciate them, and I do resonate with some of their music, but I don't know. I think you're probably right on with, like, I think the more time you spend in front of them, like, the more shows you go to, like, there's people who have spent probably a year of their life at a Fish show, at least, right?
Yeah.
So, like, you think about what it's like to be in that place, and it just becomes familiar to you. I mean, like, you and I have both seen different artists, for, upwards of 50-ish shows or 60 show, whatever, right? But,
Yeah.
like, it becomes familiar to you. So, like, you're not just going for the music, you're going to connect with people that are coming from all over. And I think that's something that Fish definitely does, is it's a culture, it's a community. And, like, shit, are you thinking about going to the Sphere? Is that on your radar?
I tried to get tickets, man. Same thing with the Skrillex thing. I sat in the waiting room. I couldn't get them, and now the resale tickets are like $600. And like, I'm not doing that.
Taking a loan.
As much as I love them and would love to be there, I'm not doing that. There's no chance.
I'm trying to think about now too, like, because there's going to be Dead and Company teases at the Sphere. There's going to be lots of different artists who I think are going to try to dip their toes in that. So I don't know what makes sense to break the bank to do that,
Yeah.
but the novelty needs to wear off, but also the production is going to keep growing. So I don't know what's it going to take, but there's going to be a time where decisions are going to be made to say, all right, I'm going to have to save money to go there to do it. Right.
Yeah. The time will be right for sure. It's just not, it's not this year for me. It's too much.
I get it.
So what do you got for number 4?
Number 4 was a show I traveled to in Atlanta. First time at this venue too. The venue is the Eastern, and I've been hearing so many good things about them. But the fucking return of Pretty Lights, man, that's what got me there. And to experience that venue in front of that band, it was so much fucking fun. I mean, that venue, it's a there's a floor, there's a balcony, and there's like a mezzanine kind of area, but it was like it breathed. It felt so good to just move around that place. Like, I love to be able to experience a venue without being tied to a specific area, and this one totally gives you the freedom to do that without being, packed in like sardines. So I was able to float from the floor, from behind the soundboard, to going to the top. They have a roof bar / like I guess concessions area that they have some places they show the show also. But it was just so nice to that was my first time seeing Pretty Lights since on this tour, and in that venue it felt so good. So that's a venue, if you're in Atlanta and there's a decent show playing there, definitely go. But if one of your artists is playing there, don't miss it.
Nice. Hell yeah. How
Yeah.
many PL shows did you see?
So it was funny because the shows that I went to, each one I did the first and last night of that stop. So they were doing 3 night runs wherever they were playing at, except for Swanee, but or another festival too, Cascade maybe. But 3 night runs at every place. So for Atlanta, I got to go for I think it was Thursday and Saturday for Atlanta. I may be mistaken by the days, but I went to the first night, drove back to Birmingham, and then went to the last night. Same thing for the Caverns. Went to the first night, drove back, and then went to the last night, and then same for New Orleans. Friday, drove back, went back on Sunday, drove back. So in each trip,
Jesus.
each trip got progressively longer. So it's like 2.5 to Atlanta. It was around closer to 3 maybe to the Caverns, and then 5 to New Orleans. But it was like I was kind of getting my training wheels back on the
Yeah.
road
Yeah.
to do the last Pretty Lights in New Orleans shows. But fuck,
Nice.
man, it's a can't miss show, right?
Yeah.
So like if you have the opportunity and you can do it, and my dogs will give me the grace to be able to travel
Yeah.
and come back to them. So I fucking you just take the ride, man.
Nice. Fuck yeah. That's the way to
Yep.
do it. So number 3 for me
3.
is Portugal the Man at Bonnaroo.
Hell yeah.
Look, man, I have gone on this crusade for a long time. Portugal the Man will always be one of my favorite bands of all time. I think they're phenomenal artists. I think that musically they're insanely creative, insanely innovative. They hold a special place in my heart. Every Portugal the Man show I've seen, I've loved dearly. But Bonnaroo, I think what impressed me the most is I texted Christian like immediately afterwards. But Portugal the Man played the main stage at Bonnaroo, which Portugal the Man has been playing tents and smaller stages at festivals for years. And I remember 2018, I think this was, I had a conversation with Emily at the time. She was at Bonnaroo, and I had seen Portugal the Man in a tent, and the show was phenomenal. And granted, I was a little fucked up. I'll be honest. It was late at night, but we had a conversation afterwards, and I remember like kind of crying a little bit because I'm just a sensitive guy. And she was like, "What the fuck is wrong?" And I remember telling her like, I don't think it's fair that they're still intense. Like they deserve more. They deserve more recognition. Like they're a better band than this. And of course, she was like it's not a big deal, man. Like they're playing a major festival. Like it's okay. But like the thing that made me really happy and really proud of them was they came out and played a main stage at Bonnaroo. They didn't play their hits. They played music off of their early albums. They played a set list that I had not seen before. You know, they still ran through some of their very popular songs, but they played shit that if you don't listen to Portugal the Man on a regular basis, you wouldn't know. And I thought that was kind of a statement of like, this is who we are as a band. This is the type of music we want to play. And I really respected that. Like it made me really, really happy. And the guys I were with are huge Portugal the Man fans. Chris and Kevin, my friends Chris and Kevin were there, and they love Portugal the Man. And we were all just blown away by it. And it's just nice to see artists when they finally get that platform and they're finally, you know, in front of, there's probably 50,000 people there. The stage was packed. Like just to be able to kind of make a statement of, hey, this is our music over the years. And it was a shit ton of fun. So I loved it. I'll remember that show for a long, long time.
It was a nighttime show?
It was like as the sunset.
Perfect. Yeah. That Portugal the Man seems to me like, I think I've only seen them in the day. But like, and I've only seen them maybe once or twice, but they seem like a daytime sunset kind of vibe of a band.
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful, you know, journey for them to get to that point and for you to experience that. Hell yeah. That's
I
powerful.
thought it was great. What do you got?
All right, number 3, Incubus. I mentioned them earlier. I got to see them this year. They're a band that, like, if within a 3-hour driving range, like it's therapy.
You're sending it,
yeah. Yeah. So but this time I phoned a friend to see if someone else wanted to go too. So shout out Garrett Hinkie. I called him or texted him. I said, "Yo, Incubus is." I think Garrett lives in Nashville, so I was like, "Dude, this show it's in Franklin, Tennessee." Which, by the way, it's I think it's just called the Franklin Amphitheater. It is a fucking beautiful venue. It's fairly new, within 2 years new, carved into a quarry, and beyond like impressed by the infrastructure of it all. They have there's a big rock wall behind the crowd that they will shine lights on or do. I could imagine doing visuals or mapping onto it, but the Incubus set was incredible. They did covers of they did their song "Wish You Were Here" into Pink Floyd's "Wish You Were Here."
Nice.
They played "Riders on the Storm," The Doors. I want to say they played a Rolling Stones song, but I could be. I'm not super versed in Rolling Stones, but it was another classic artist they played. Shit, it was either Rolling Stones or Led Zeppelin, but I think I would remember if it was Led Zeppelin. But either way, beyond impressed by their shows every time. Such a great vibe. I mean, Incubus crowds are interesting because it's a wide range of like alternative fans that grew up in the 90s who come back to these shows and bring their kids, plus like people like me who just resonate with their music. It's always super fun. But for that venue too, my first time there, definitely can't wait to go back to see them. Have you ever seen Incubus?
No, I have not. I was just about to say that. And I know that they have been at a festival that I've been at. I think they've been at a Bonnaroo I've been to, but I didn't see them, and I don't know why. There's probably something overlapping, but I need to find time to see them because I do love Incubus. I know you're a huge Incubus fan. So, and I like their music, so I need to to try to make an effort to see them 100%.
Yeah. And the thing is, like I feel like any conscious person our age can go to an Incubus show and know, I mean, a good bit of their songs. Because, I mean, They got so much radio play back in the 2000s. But from a musician standpoint, from a showmanship standpoint, if Brandon Boyd would just not take off his shirt at a show, that would be something that, like, there's one thing that I could do without, and it's the slow striptease that Brandon Boyd does throughout every single show. I swear to God. And I love him, man. I love his voice. He's like a super powerful singer and like frontman and musician too. He'll play drums and bongos and stuff like that on stage.
Just
but
not like, about the striptease.
I mean, I get it. But like, and he's still, I mean, he's
about
old.
The aura. It's about the aura, man.
I mean, like when he walks on stage and you see him with two shirts on, it's one's coming off and then another's coming off, and then he's gonna just like be himself on stage. It's like massive like Iggy Pop vibes, but like it's Brandon Boyd, man. Like I fucking love him, and I mean that's just a nitpicking thing, but it's a sick environment. I enjoy it.
Yeah, that's fair. So number 2 for me was JID at Bonnaroo this year. So I don't know if you've listened to JID. We did do his newest album, so you might have listened to it when we did his newest album. But so this is what happened. I knew when the day schedule got released that this is exactly what would happen. So Saturday was Odessa, My Morning Jacket, JID, STS9. And I think there was an electronic artist that I'm not a fan of. I can't remember who the electronic artist was, but I knew from the fucking get-go, because I know Bonnaroo, I knew that it would go Odessa because they were the headliner, and I knew My Morning Jacket would play the Witch stage. I knew JID would overlap with them. With My Morning Jacket, and then it would go into STS9. And I was trying to prep myself for the internal fucking struggle that it would take for me to leave My Morning Jacket. Sure as shit enough, the fucking schedule comes out. It's My Morning Jacket 1:30 to 3:30 or something to that degree. Yeah. JID smack fucking dab in the middle, 2 to 3. And then STS9 starting at like 3 o'clock, I think. And so I told myself, look, I'm going to go to My Morning Jacket. I'm going to stay for an hour and I'm going to leave. I'm going to go see JID because I love JID. I loved his new album. Like there was limited hip hop this year at Bonnaroo, or 2023 at Bonnaroo. I really wanted to see him. So I go to My Morning Jacket and everybody's telling me you're not going to be able to leave once you get there. And so they start playing or whatever. It gets 45 minutes into it. I'm like, all right, we got to leave in like 15. And I'm with like Shania at the time. And I'm like, all right, like it's an hour, like JID's about to start, and I'm like, all right, one more song, and they play one more song, and I'm like, all right, one more. Well, so I push it like as close as possible, and I sprint my ass to the fucking that tent where JID is playing. I get there right as he's coming on, Sure enough, we're fucking jamming. Two of my friends, Chris and Kevin, they find us with the totem. They show up like out of nowhere. We didn't expect to see him, so it was just the
Oh
four of
yeah.
us like throwing down. And JID, like he just played a great set. He played old music. He played a bunch of shit off of the Forever Story. Like it was just a fucking vibe, man. And like late night hip hop Bonnaroo is just, if it's a small sect of people that want to be there. Like the tent's not even full, and we're just throwing the fuck down. And he was getting into it. The crowd was getting into it. And it was just an experience, man. Anytime I get to see a hip hop show at Bonnaroo, especially in one of those tents late at night, shit gets fucking rowdy, dude. So
Right.
we threw it down, and it was a great time. And then hauled our ass over to SDS9 to catch them, and we were exhausted by the time we got to SDS9. But man, that night was a legendary Bonnaroo run, one for the fucking books for sure. So
Yeah.
number 2
Well,
for me.
When shit works out like that, like one, you have to have your bearings. Like you know Bonnaroo well enough now to probably do it blindfolded, like know where to go.
Yeah.
But like when shit works out like that, like you push it, and then it's like, fuck it. All right, let's go. And then
Yeah.
you commit to it, and you commit everything, and then you get there perfect timing. Like that adds to the next thing that you're about to experience, right? And that
Yep.
makes it so much better. And then people showing up, it's like you're getting all these extra hits of like fucking just so much goodness keeps happening. You're like, you
Yeah.
can't get any better. And then you're like, fuck it, Sound Tribe, you know? And
Yeah.
then it does, right? Caps off in the evening. So it's like when shit works out like that, it is so, it makes the experience so much more so. And that's the beauty of festivals. But hard decisions to make, you know, because then you look back at set list and you're like, fuck, My Morning
What
Jacket
did I miss?
closed. They
Yeah.
closed with this song, you know, and it's like, damn it. But you know, you can't be at two places at once. So it's like
Yeah.
it pays off in that sense. So
Yeah,
that's a
the 100%.
Bonnaroo veteran move right there.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so my second band or top live show of the year, it's a band called Yama or Yaima. I want to say Yama. It's spelled Yaima, and it's a two-person ensemble, I guess you could say, two-person production, vocals and musician, production, handpan, sometimes playing, very ceremonial music. It was actually at a chapel in Atlanta where the show was held. And I had never seen them play live, but I've been listening to their music. And my friend Jess, she showed them to me. And ever since then, I'm like, man, this is just such spiritually moving music. And walk into the chapel, and all you see is like just all the shoes. Everyone's shoes are just lining the wall. And I'm like, oh, this is special. And then they're serving cacao at the concession stand, so
Nice.
at the table. There's not a concession stand, it's just a table, but it was just so, it felt so right. And my homie Brandon got to meet me there, and we both got to see the show, and it was just healing, you know. There's really no
Yeah.
way to put it. But they're a band too, like I would say late night list, like last music of the night listening type of band.
Yeah.
Or first thing sunrise, let's like get everything kind of moving kind of band too. Definitely feels a certain vibe, but their whole tour was like at these kind of sacred spaces, so it was really really interesting to finally get to experience them live. It delivered everything I wanted to.
Nice. Very fucking cool. All right, so number 1, top show. I told you guys that I had some repeats, and I do apologize, but also don't apologize. So we saw Portugal and Man at Red Rocks this year. Here's the caveat. They played with the Colorado Symphony, or maybe it's Colorado Symphony and Orchestra. And so it was like a bunch of my friends came in from Birmingham. We had a golf trip. We played a bunch of golf when they were here. And so a bunch of us, same guys, Kevin and Chris and some others, went with me to Portugal the Man at Red Rocks. And like Kelsey Farr was there. I got to see Kelsey Farr. I hadn't seen her in so long. And Kelsey's a big Portugal the Man fan. And so like she came up for a couple songs, and like it was so therapeutic. Like,
yeah,
Kelsey, I love Kelsey. She holds a special place in my heart. I don't know if she listens to this, but like it was, we just hugged and danced and sang to songs that I know we both love, and like the playing with the symphony was so beautiful, and it was just a great experience. We all had such a good time, and they really just put on a great show. And again, played an amazing set list. And I remember leaving and being like, that was one of the best shows I've ever seen at Red Rocks, like 100%. Just everything fit right, and it's rare that those moments all kind of connect on that level. And it was just really, really special. Great set list, great music, and we just good people. So it was a good time. And like, it was one of the few shows, like, I swear, I think I drank a little in the parking lot, and I think when I got in I drank one beer, and like, it was because I didn't want to leave the show. Like, I wanted to keep watching.
Right.
And like, I'm always drinking beers at shows, and I was relatively sober the entire night, and still it just blew me away. And so it was a lot of fun. So that's definitely number one, and very, very special show in my heart for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that venue is hard to top, and then that band in that venue, when you enjoy them as much as you do, I can only imagine. But do they do like, so you got to see, so their own show, their own production? Do they
Yep.
do multiple sets, like 2 sets and an encore? How do they typically
No,
do their
they didn't
show?
take a set break. It was just straight music, and then
Fuck
I
yeah.
can't I don't
The symphony come out, or were they
yeah,
out the whole?
yeah, they were out the whole time. And then I don't remember if they had an encore or not. But it's not like, it's not like when you see a jam band where it's like set break encore. Like,
Right.
there's kind of just the show, they left, and then I
I
think
appreciate
they
that.
might have done an encore. Yeah, I do enjoy it. It's like, you're in it, once they come out, you got 2 hours or whatever it is, and you just kind of enjoy it. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, it's like in Don't Waste Time. I mean,
Yeah.
I will gladly rag on that Breaking Benjamin show one more time, because it was such a bad taste in my mouth, man. So the opener for this show was the singer who was going to be replacing the lead singer because his voice was fucked up. So he did a solo acoustic set, and then I watched a stagehand waste 30 minutes doing nothing, literally taping down each individual set list, and then going out and testing each individual. It was an unplugged show. It was an acoustic. Breaking Benjamin was doing an acoustic show, so like, don't have to do that much testing, my man. So they basically wasted 30 minutes, and that still set me down a path. So I was like, oh God, if they're gonna do this plus an encore, how much time is that gonna take? So
Yeah.
I hit the road. But
That's
bring
fair.
it back to Portugal the Man. I don't listen to their music that much, but I can imagine in a live setting that being like, would you say that's like the most ideal way to take in their music?
Yeah,
is
no,
live.
I think so.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, all
Right.
the pieces really come together super well for them when they perform live. So it was,
Yeah.
and like I said, I've seen them probably 10 times, and that took the cake for sure.
Hell yeah. All right, so my top set of the year, or show of the year, is none other than Pretty Lights in New Orleans. The last night.
I knew this was going to be it.
The last
I knew
night,
this was going to be it.
It was such everything fell into place, man. All my good karma out on the road, no major travel issues, though. I did drive, when I drove back from the Friday show, I drove through a torrential, dangerous driving storm. I mean, it was bad, but made it safe, made it in time. No issues with the dogs here. So headed back on Sunday, and man, what an experience. I mean, I've seen Pretty Lights a handful of times. The band I've seen a handful of times, not as many as some people, but like, to see them in New Orleans, cap off a tour, also to drop Pink Floyd's Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun towards the end of the set. I mean, I've never had a moment like that at a show where I'm like, oh my gosh, they're playing this, and I look around and there's minimal awareness of what is happening, right? Because Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun is a deep cut of Pink Floyd, and when they would play this is the Syd Barrett days of Pink Floyd. When they would play this song in a set, it was so mysterious, so dark, so hypnotic, so spacey, so, I mean, just out there. And to hear them go into it, and the way they went into it was just so, I mean, I lost my shit. This is another show. I mean, I was looking at my list, and Garrett Hinkey was with me at 3 of these sets. Pretty Lights in Atlanta, Incubus in Tennessee, and then Pretty Lights in New Orleans. And he and I are going to see Tool in 3 days in Birmingham.
Nice.
So shout out to Garrett, man, becoming a fucking trooper out on the road with me. I appreciate that. But I looked at him and shook him. I've never shaken someone at a show being like, "Oh my God, can you
Yeah.
believe this?" And that moment just it just meant everything to me to be there and experience that. In New Orleans is my hometown, and
Yeah.
man, it was just so perfect. So there's no way that
Nice.
couldn't be top of the list for me.
Nice. That's very, very special. I'm excited that you got to experience that. I will spare you my thoughts on the city of New Orleans because, I know that those
It's a
thoughts may
learning
differ
curve.
between us. Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe it's an acquired taste, as they
yeah,
say.
yeah.
So,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, it's, I enjoyed the pre-light show that I went to, and I know that, I think you guys are bigger PL guys than me, but it's nice that the shows, from what I've heard, have been phenomenal, and they really threw it down. So it's nice that you got to really experience what you wanted to experience and see something special.
Yeah,
That doesn't happen often, and who knows? This may be a new era of Pretty Lights for the extended future, and so there may be more opportunities to do that and experience that, which would be nice.
yeah,
I
yeah. I think
think.
so. And this show too had I mean, they brought out one of the keyboard players who was in the band, a few years back. Brandon Butler got to play a few songs on stage. They brought out the Soul Rebels, so there was a brass section on stage. They did a flip of Juvenile, Back That Ass Up. That if you've not heard that,
Nice.
I'm gonna pull some select tracks from this tour that I think will resonate with you because of just the samples. And in New Orleans was littered with hip hop samples
Yeah.
throughout. So they're doing a great job of pulling from the culture, and I'm very excited to see where they go to next. But shit, man, I know you put your Bonnaroo shoes up, but you might want to take them back down for this coming year just to go to that Thursday, man. If I can get there
Yeah.
on a Thursday just to see, obviously Pretty Lights, but the Pretty Lights sunrise set,
Yeah.
that is going to be
It's gonna be
something
crazy.
crazy. Yeah, no
Yeah.
doubt.
The
But
hundred
they'll probably
percent.
stream it. They'll probably stream it. I mean, that's another great thing that they did this past tour was stream every show for the people who couldn't be there in person. So
Yeah.
maybe virtually you get to go to Bonnaroo next
Yeah,
year.
true. Not a
Hmm.
bad way to slow retire.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
um okay, well, I know we wanted to talk about the A24 list, but we're at an hour and
Save that.
six. So let's save it for when we have more time. And let's save the rides or dies too. I
We'll save
wanna
that.
and then
Let's list our raps. We can just list them.
yeah,
We won't
yeah.
have to talk for ages about it, but
Yeah,
let's
what do
go.
you got?
So my rap, we'll go artist first. Okay. So number 5, Incubus. Number 4, Tipper. Number 3, well, I should pause. Spotify rap for me is also asterisk, like I said earlier,
Right.
because I listen to a lot of shit on Bandcamp and my iPod. I just bought 2 new iPod Touches this week,
Nice.
Bluetooth for my backyard.
Fuck yeah.
Can't get enough iPods in here. So, um, number 3, Dave Matthews Band. I fucking really dig his music. There's a lot of live sets on Spotify as well. Number
Nice.
2, Tycho. Tycho's for me, it's daily listening, good for a lot of different vibes.
Yeah.
And number 1, this band, I can't preach enough about them. I can only listen to their music on Spotify, except for the stuff that I've bought, which is on my iTunes. But Dredge, man, Dredge is heavy rotation. I brought a Ride or Die way back when of Dredge,
Yep.
and I can't wait to bring an album. So coming soon to some listening near you is going to be Dredge, maybe 2024. We'll
Fuck
see.
yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah. All right,
My
give it to
top
me.
artist, number 5, Pop Smoke. Rest in peace to Pop Smoke. Good. Fucking love Pop Smoke. He's a rapper. He's very similar to 50 Cent. I think Trey and Christian both said that when we did the Rides or Dies that I did a Pop Smoke song, but I love Pop Smoke. So if you haven't listened to him, give him a listen. Number 4, Skrillex. Number 3, Lil Wayne, obviously, always in the fucking rotation. My boy, forever. Number 2, J. Cole, another huge J. Cole, big J. Cole guy. Love his music. And number 1, Eminem. So basically, like, about what you'd expect from me.
Right.
It's just no surprises there whatsoever.
Consistency, right?
Yeah, it is what it is. So I had 50,000 minutes roughly listened to, but again, there is an asterisk. There's other platforms I use, but and then top genre was rap. So what do you have for minutes in top genre?
I don't know. I didn't write down top genre. It probably says some sort of jam or progressive rock.
Yeah.
But minutes I did write down, it was 41,000, almost 42,000, 4 minutes short of 42,000 minutes. So
Nice.
I wonder if podcasts are calculated into that or
I
not.
think they are. I think
If they are, that makes sense because I mean, I listen to Joe Rogan's podcast. I listen to all my podcasts now. I was using Google Podcast as my source for them, but I keep getting notifications from the whatever podcast channel saying, you know, at this date we will no longer be on Google Podcasts. So everyone is fading away and moving to Spotify. So I just centralized it now. Workaholics podcast is pretty incredible.
Nice.
So I listen to that on Spotify. So
nice. Hell yeah. Cool. Well, anything else before we wrap up? We'll talk A24 next week for sure. I promise. We'll make the fucking time for it.
Yeah, right. But no, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing Tool on Friday. Can't fucking wait. I was trying to think of other artists that I'm either gonna see this year or that I would hope to see. Dredge is there. There's been talkings of an album in the works from Dredge. So if they come out with an album, then likely they'll tour. So maybe in the fall we'll see some Dredge. Pretty Lights is another band that I can't wait to just see whatever they decide to do. I'm down if it's within driving distance. I'll get there. So
yeah,
I'm really excited for what's to come this year. It's been a rough start. Like I said, Breaking Benjamin, rough way to start this year. So we'll see. Fair. But Limp Bizkit is coming to Pelham, and I can't wait to fucking throw down in August, man. It's gonna get rowdy. So so we'll see what happens this year. But I'm down. I'm down to be a part of it. So
hell yeah, for sure.
What about you? Anybody looking forward to?
Like, I don't really have anything like queued up in the fucking docket. Like, Tool is coming in February. The tickets are fucking insane. They're like $300. So dude, I don't know. I've already seen Tool. I'll look around. If I can find reasonably priced tickets, I'll go for sure. Because I would love to see him. But other than that, like, I don't know. Wintertime here, it slows the fuck down because it gets so cold. And so we just got to wait till summer comes around. I mean, obviously I'll work in String Cheese, obviously Fish in September, and then, Dead. I don't think Dead & Co. is doing their thing, but if they make an appearance somewhere, I'll try to get to it. So, the usuals, and we'll see what happens. I think, the music festival circuit has come to an end for me for now, so it's all about what comes relatively close to me, and then I'll go from there,
But luckily you're in the freaking center of the music universe, as far as like I call Colorado the mecca of music because I mean everybody's gonna come through at least in one way or another. You got Denver, Aspen, all the surrounding cities too. So either way, I think we'll have plenty of stories to come next year from our journeys from this year.
Yeah, 100%. Well, man, it was a blast as always. Great to hear about your year. It was a crazy year musically. So, but we will let's aim for next week. We'll find an album. We'll talk A24 movies, and then we'll queue it up. Also, this is probably going to be the first time I upload a video to Spotify. I'm going to try it. I don't know if it's going to fucking work. So if you're listening to this and not watching it, I fucked something up. But hopefully I figured it out. And so you'll see mine and Anthony's beautiful faces to make the podcast even better. Yeah.
We'll get some dogs on here next week too.
Yeah, 100%. All right, brother. It was fun. I will talk to you soon.
See you, man. Talk to you soon.
Peace.
Peace.